In 1987, social worker Sarah Chen arrives in Marrow's Hollow, a remote Appalachian town, to investigate reports of child neglect. What she discovers is a community so isolated and inbred over generations that their moral compass has twisted beyond recognition. As she digs deeper, she uncovers a horrifying truth. The town's traditions include ritualistic cannibalism that they genuinely don't perceive as wrong. Sarah must navigate a nightmare where every resident shares the same hollow eyes, the same crooked smile and the same hunger. That's what Detective Marcus Webb thought as he stared at the grainy footage flickering across the evidence room monitor in November 1987. The timestamp in the corner read 10:47 a.m., October 15, 1987, just 1 month ago. The woman on screen, Sarah Chen, 28 years old, Child Protective Services, adjusted a small camera mounted on her dashboard, her face filling the frame for armament. She had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the type of social worker who probably kept candy in her purse for scared kids. Documentation log, day 1. Sarah's voice crackled through the old speakers. I'm about 2 miles outside Marrow's Hollow, West Virginia. GPS doesn't work out here. Had to follow hand-drawn directions from the sheriff's office. This'll probably be my last clear recording before I reach the town. The mountains block most signals. Detective Webb paused the tape. He'd watched it 17 times since it was anonymously delivered to the police station 3 days ago. Each viewing revealed something new, something worse. Sarah Chen had been reported missing 3 weeks ago. Her abandoned car was found on Route 19, 60 miles from Marrow's Hollow. No body, no explanation. Just this tape, wrapped in butcher paper and twine, left on the station's doorstep. He pressed play. Sarah's car wound through autumn mountains, the foliage so thick it created a tunnel of red and gold. The road narrowed with each mile, asphalt giving way to gravel, then dirt. No guardrails, no signs. Just endless forest pressing in from both sides. The Pembroke case, Sarah continued, glancing at papers on her passenger seat while driving. 3 children, ages approximately 11 and 13, names unknown. The initial report came from a traveling salesman who got lost and ended up in Marrow's Hollow. Said the kids looked malnourished, possibly abused. Wouldn't speak to him, just stared. Local sheriff's department has no records of any Pembroke family, no birth certificates for any children in the town for the past 20 years. That can't be right. The trees opened suddenly, and Marrow's Hollow appeared like something from another century. Wood-sided houses leaned against each other, their foundations settled at odd angles after decades of mountain rain. No power lines, no satellite dishes. Smoke rose from every chimney despite the warm October afternoon. Sarah parked outside what might have been a general store, though the sign above the door had rotted away, leaving only the ghost of letters. The camera kept recording as she grabbed her briefcase and state-issued identification badge. The first person she encountered was a boy, maybe 15, sitting on the store steps whittling a stick with a rusted knife. When he looked up at Sarah's approach, Detective Webb had to pause the tape again. The boy's eyes were wrong. Not the color or the shape, but the expression. Like looking at someone through frosted glass, present but not entirely there. "Excuse me," Sarah's voice, professional but warm. "I'm looking for the Pembroke family. Could you point me in the right direction?" The boy's smile spread too wide, showing teeth that seemed too numerous for his mouth. "Pembroke," he repeated. Not as a question, but like he was tasting the word. "You mean Uncle Pembroke or Cousin Pembroke or Daddy Pembroke?" There's more than one Pembroke family?" The boy laughed, a sound like wind through a broken window. "Lady, there ain't but one family here. We's all Pembrokes, one way or another. Mama Pembroke says outsider blood makes the soup bitter, but you look sweet enough." Before Sarah could respond, the store door creaked open. A woman emerged. Tall, gaunt, wearing a faded floral dress that might have been fashionable in 1962. Her hair was the same ash blonde as the boy's, her eyes the same washed-out blue, her face carrying the same subtle wrongness that Detective Webb couldn't quite define. "Joshua, mind your manners," the woman said. her voice honeyed but hollow. "We don't talk about soup with guests." She turned to Sarah, and her smile was identical to the boy's. Too wide, too many teeth. "You must be the state lady. We've been expecting you." Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her briefcase. "I'm Sarah Chen from Child Protective Services. I'm here about the children." "Yes." The woman descended the steps with movements that seemed just slightly out of sync, as if she was remembering how to walk rather than doing it naturally. "I'm Martha Pembroke. Also Martha Pembroke, if we're being formal about marriages." She laughed at Sarah's confusion. Small-town humor. "Please follow me. The children are eager to meet someone from the outside." The camera, still recording from Sarah's car, captured them walking down the main street. Detective Webb counted the people they passed. 7 adults, 4 children, all with the same ash-blonde hair. The same pale eyes, the same features repeated with minor variations, like a photocopy of a photocopy, degrading with each iteration. Sarah's voice, picked up faintly by the car's microphone. "Mrs. Pembroke, how many families live in Marrow's Hollow?" "Family, singular," Martha corrected. "We've been here since 1841. The mountains keep us safe, keep us pure. Daddy Pembroke, that's my father, also my late husband's father, God rest them both, used to say the outside world was poison. Martha, he'd tell me, Martha, you keep the blood in the family, and the family in the blood." They stopped at a house that seemed to breathe with age, its windows dark despite the afternoon sun. The door was already opening, and 3 children stood in the threshold. Detective Webb felt his stomach turn. They weren't just siblings, they were variations of the same child, like someone had tried to draw the same face 3 times, with slight modifications. The youngest, a girl, had a lazy eye. The middle child's jaw hung at an odd angle. The oldest boy's arms were different lengths. "Children," Martha announced, "this is Miss Chen. She's come all the way from the capital to see how special you are." The children spoke in unison, their voices creating an echo effect. "Welcome to Marrow's Hollow. Miss Chen, will you be staying for dinner?" Sarah took a step backward. The camera in her car recorded her looking over her shoulder, perhaps already sensing the trap. "You need to conduct individual interviews with each child. It's state protocol." "Of course," Martha agreed too quickly. "But surely you'll join us for lunch first." "It's nearly noon, and Grandmother Pembroke has been cooking all morning. She makes a stew that's been in the family for generations." "Secret recipe," the youngest child giggled. "The secret is in the meat." Martha's hand came down on the girl's shoulder, fingers digging in until the child winced. "Rebecca doesn't know what she's saying. Children and their imaginations." Sarah's professional composure was cracking. Even from a distance, the camera caught her hand trembling as she reached for her notebook. "Mrs. Pembroke, I need to ask, are these children receiving proper education? Medical care? Are there any other adults in the household?" "Other adults?" Martha tilted her head at an unnatural angle. "Why, the whole town raises them. Uncle Brother Thomas teaches them their letters. Aunt Sister Catherine shows them women's work. Cousin Husband Michael handles the discipline when needed. Uncle Brother." Sarah's voice pitched higher. "Cousin Husband." The oldest boy spoke, his voice cracking with puberty. "Mama says family trees are for outsiders. We got ourselves a family wreath. Everything circles back to everything else." Detective Webb watched Sarah's face change as the full horror began to dawn on her. The isolation, the repeated features, the casual mentions of impossible family relations. Marrow's Hollow wasn't just practicing incest. They'd been doing it for so long, through so many generations, that they no longer understood it as wrong. It was simply how things were, like breathing or eating. "I need to make a phone call," Sarah said suddenly. "To my office. They're expecting an update." Martha's smile never wavered. "No phones in Marrow's Hollow. No electricity neither. We live like our ancestors did, pure and simple. Then I'll need to drive back to—" "Oh, but you just got here." Martha's hand was on Sarah's arm now, grip firm. "And Grandmother Pembroke will be so disappointed if you don't try her stew. She started it special when we heard you were coming. Even added fresh meat just this morning." The children giggled again, that same echoing sound. The camera caught Sarah trying to pull away, but Martha held firm. More townspeople had appeared, drifting out of houses and from behind buildings, all wearing the same expression of vacant hunger. "Please," Sarah said, her professionalism completely gone now. "I need to leave. I'll come back tomorrow with—" "Tomorrow?" Martha laughed. "Miss Chen, once you taste grandmother's stew, you won't want to leave. No one ever does. Well, not in one piece anyway." The last thing the dashcam recorded was Sarah being led toward the house, surrounded by the shambling townsfolk. The oldest boy turned back toward Sarah's car, stared directly at the camera, and waved with his shorter arm. Then he reached for something in his pocket. The recording cut to static. Detective Webb stopped the tape. The rest would come later, recorded on Sarah's handheld camera inside the house. Those segments were worse, much worse. But this opening, this arrival, this slow realization that an entire town had devolved so far from normal human morality that they couldn't even recognize their own monstrosity, that's what chilled him most. He made a note in the case file. Marrow's Hollow investigation approved. Full state police deployment authorized. Approach with extreme caution. But even as he wrote it, Detective Webb knew what they would find when they reached the town. Empty houses, cold fireplaces, no trace of the Pembroke family, or families, or family wreath, or whatever ungodly tangle of DNA they'd become. They'd vanish into the mountains like they always did when outsiders came calling. The only evidence would be Sarah's tapes. And the bones in the soup pots. Always the bones. He reached for the second tape, labeled Sunday Dinner, and tried to prepare himself for what came next. The timestamp read October 16th, 1987. Sarah had been in Marrow's Hollow for exactly 1 day. She wouldn't last another. The VHS player hummed as the next tape began to load. Detective Webb lit a cigarette with shaking hands and wondered if some knowledge was too terrible to possess. If some truths were better left buried in the mountain hollows where even God seemed afraid to look. The handheld camera shook as Sarah Chen powered it on inside the Pembroke house. The timestamp read 12:15 p.m., October 15th, 1987. Detective Webb leaned closer to the monitor, noting how Sarah's breathing had become audible, quick, shallow, scared. Documentation log continued, Sarah whispered, panning the camera across what should have been a living room. "I'm inside the primary Pembroke residence. I need to record everything. Something is deeply wrong here. The room defied logic. Family photographs covered every wall, but they were all wrong. The same faces appeared at different ages, in different combinations, labeled with impossible relationships. One showed Martha as a young bride, next to a groom who looked exactly like her, with slightly masculine features. The label read, Martha and Martin, Wedding Day 1967, blessed by Father Uncle Jerome. Another photo, 3 elderly women identical except for their ages, labeled the Pembroke sisters, mother-daughter and sister-daughter, 1974. Sarah's camera focused on a massive family tree painted directly onto the wall. But it wasn't a tree, it was indeed a wreath, names connecting in circles and loops, lines of descent that curved back on themselves. Some names appeared multiple times in different generations. Thomas Pembroke Jr. was listed as his own grandfather, Miss Chen. Martha's voice made Sarah jump, the camera swinging wildly. "Grandmother Pembroke is ready in the kitchen. The children are so excited to show you their home." The 3 children stood in a perfect line, their heads tilted at identical angles. The youngest, Rebecca, held a cloth doll that had human hair, ash blonde, sewn into its scalp. "I made her myself," Rebecca said, holding up the doll, with cousin sister Amy's hair. From before she went into the pot, Martha laughed nervously. "Children and their stories. Amy went to live with relatives in the next hollow. Tell Miss Chen the truth, Rebecca." Rebecca's lazy eye drifted while the other remained fixed on Sarah. "The truth is what Mama says it is." The middle child, whom Martha introduced as Samuel, stepped forward. His misaligned jaw made his words slur slightly. "Would you like to see our playroom? We have lots of toys. Some still have teeth. Samuel," Martha's voice cracked like a whip. The boy immediately fell silent, but his eyes, Those washed-out Pembroke eyes remained fixed on Sarah with an intensity that the camera captured in unsettling detail. The oldest boy, David, took Sarah's free hand. His grip with his longer arm was surprisingly strong. "This way, Miss Chen. Grandmother doesn't like to be kept waiting. She's very old. Almost 40. Sarah pulled her hand away. 40 is old. Oldest in town, David confirmed. Most don't make it past 35. Mama says it's 'cause our blood is so pure, it burns through us faster. Like lamp oil. The camera recorded their procession through the house. Every room told the same story of isolation and degradation. A piano with keys made from what looked like carved bone. A quilt sewn from dozens of different clothing items, all in the same size, as if from the same person at different times. A kitchen table with deep scratches that spelled out help over and over again. They entered the kitchen where an ancient wood-burning stove dominated the space. The woman standing beside it shouldn't have been 40. She looked 70, her body twisted with what Detective Webb recognized as severe genetic abnormalities. Her spine curved like a question mark. Her fingers had too many joints. But her face was the same Pembroke face, just more concentrated, more distilled. "The state lady," Grandmother Pembroke said, her voice like rustling paper. "Pretty thing. Different blood. It'll be nice to add new flavors to the pot. She's here to check on the children," Martha said quickly. "About their schooling," Grandmother Pembroke laughed, a sound like bones rattling. "Schooling. I'll school her." She lifted the lid on a massive pot, steam rising. The smell that escaped made Sarah gag. Metallic, sweet, wrong. "Smells delicious," Martha said firmly, her eyes never leaving Sarah. "Doesn't it smell delicious, Miss Chen?" Sarah's camera caught something floating in the pot. A ring. A gold ring with a small diamond, still on what might have been a finger. "I'm vegetarian," Sarah said quickly. The entire room went silent. The children looked at each other in confusion. "Vegetarian?" Rebecca asked. "What's that?" "She doesn't eat meat," Martha explained slowly, as if working through an alien concept. Grandmother Pembroke's laugh turned into a cough. "Don't eat meat? What else is there? Meat is all there is. Meat and blood and bone. Everything else is just waiting to become meat." David tugged on Sarah's sleeve. "Even vegetables got meat in them here. We fertilize with what's left after the rendering." Sarah's camera shook violently. I need to use the bathroom." "Outhouse is out back," Martha said. "Samuel, show her the way." "No," Sarah said too quickly. "I can find it." She practically ran from the kitchen, the camera swinging wildly. Detective Webb could hear her hyperventilating. She burst through the back door into a yard that should have been normal but wasn't. The vegetable garden was too lush, too green for October. The plants seemed swollen, gorged. Tomatoes hung like bloody fists. The outhouse stood at the yard's edge, but Sarah didn't go toward it. Instead, her camera focused on something else. A smokehouse. The door was slightly ajar, and through the gap shapes hung from hooks. Long shapes. Familiar shapes. "Oh, God," Sarah whispered. Oh, God, Miss Chen." Sarah spun around. A man stood behind her, another Pembroke, of course, but this one middle-aged, wearing what might have been a sheriff's uniform, if sheriff's uniforms came from 1952. "I'm Sheriff Pembroke," he said. "Also Justice of the Peace Pembroke and Mayor Pembroke. We consolidate authority here. Keeps things simple." "Sheriff," Sarah said, hope creeping into her voice. "Thank God, there's something terrible happening here. The children are in danger. The whole town is perfect," Sheriff Pembroke finished. "Been perfect since my great-great-grandfather-uncle founded it. We don't need outsiders telling us our business." Sarah backed away, but more townspeople had emerged from neighboring houses. They moved slowly, casually, but they were surrounding her. All had the same face, the same hollow eyes, the same hungry expression. "The children need help," Sarah insisted, her voice professional despite her terror. "They're malnourished. They need medical attention, proper education. They need family," Sheriff Pembroke corrected. "And family is all we got here. All we need. Family takes care of family. Family feeds family. And family eats family," someone called out, causing ripples of laughter. Sarah's camera caught movement in the smokehouse. Something shifting among the hanging shapes. Something that might have been a hand, swaying in the wind. "I have to go," Sarah said. My office is expecting me. If I don't report back, they'll send people looking. Will they? Sheriff Pembroke asked. Way we heard it, you told them you'd be gone 3 days. Thorough investigation, you said. It's only been 3 hours. Sarah's face went white. The camera captured her realization that they'd been listening to her calls, that this had been planned. The traveling salesman, she whispered. The one who reported the children. Where is he? Sheriff Pembroke smiled. Traveling. Through our digestive systems. The children had come outside now, standing in the doorway, watching. Rebecca still held her doll, making it wave at Sarah. Come back inside, Martha called. Lunch is ready, and you really must eat something. You'll need your strength for what comes next. What comes next? Sarah asked, though her voice suggested she already knew. David answered with the honesty of a child. First we feed you, then we breed you, then we feed on you. It's the circle, Miss Chen, the family circle. Grandmother Pembroke appeared in the doorway, holding a bowl of stew. Eat, she commanded, or we'll hold you down and make you eat. Either way, you're joining the family recipe. Sarah's camera recorded her options disappearing. The circle of townspeople had tightened. There were at least 20 of them now, all variations of the same genetic template. All products of generations of isolation and incest so severe they no longer resembled normal humans in thought or deed. The children, Sarah said desperately. I'm here for the children. Let me just talk to them. Alone, that's all I need, Martha laughed. Alone, Miss Chen. There is no alone in Marrow's Hollow. We share everything, blood, bed, and bowl. The camera caught Samuel stepping forward, his crooked jaw working as he spoke. We want to show you something, Miss Chen, in the basement, where we keep the special meat. Special meat. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Rebecca giggled. The parts that still move. Detective Webb had to pause the tape. His hands were shaking too badly to take notes. He'd seen a lot in his 20 years on the force, but this systematic perversion of everything human, this generational spiral into madness, was beyond comprehension. He knew what came next on the tape. Sarah would be forced into the house. The camera would record things that shouldn't exist. The basement would reveal horrors that made everything else seem tame. And through it all, the Pembroke family would act as if it was all perfectly normal, because for them, it was. The most terrifying part wasn't the cannibalism. It wasn't even the incest. It was the children, raised in this nightmare, knowing neither way, genuinely unable to comprehend that eating human flesh was wrong because everyone they'd ever known did it. They weren't evil. They were something worse. Innocent monsters, shaped by isolation and madness into things that looked human but weren't. Detective Webb reached for the play button, steeling himself for what came next. The timestamp at the bottom of the frozen frame read 12:47 p.m. Sarah had been in Marrow's Hollow for less than 3 hours. She had 67 hours left to live, but those hours would feel like years. And every minute was recorded. The basement sequence was next. Webb had watched it once. Once was enough to know that some things, once seen, could never be forgotten. Some knowledge was a curse that spread like infection, changing everyone it touched, just like the Pembroke family itself, spreading through generations until the pollution was complete, until wrong became right, until the unthinkable became tradition. He pressed play. Detective Webb inserted the third tape. The label read, October 16th, 1987, Day 2. Sarah Chen had survived her first night in Marrow's Hollow. The timestamp showed 5:43 a.m. The camera's night vision mode was still active, casting everything in sickly green light. Sarah's face filled the frame. She was hiding somewhere, wooden walls visible behind her, hay or straw on the ground. Her glasses were cracked. Her left eye was swollen shut. If anyone finds this, she whispered, her voice hoarse, my name is Sarah Chen, Child Protective Services, badge number 4471. I'm trapped in Marrow's Hollow, West Virginia. The entire town is... God, how do I even explain this? She shifted, wincing in pain. They're all related. Every single person. Generations of incest have created something that isn't. They're not human anymore. Not in any way that matters. And they're cannibals. Generational cannibals. They don't even have a word for it. It's just how they eat. A sound made her freeze. Footsteps on wood above her. She held her breath until they passed. Yesterday they showed me the basement. Her voice broke. There were parts, human parts. Still alive. They keep them alive as long as possible because they say the meat stays fresher. There was a woman, what was left of her. She'd been there for weeks. They were harvesting her slowly. She begged me to kill her. I couldn't. Sarah wiped her eyes, smearing dirt across her face. They made me sit at their dinner table, made me watch them eat. The children just thought it was normal. Rebecca offered me a finger like she was sharing candy, said it was the best part, crispy from the fryer. Another sound. Voices getting closer. Sarah grabbed the camera and moved, the image swinging wildly. She pushed through a gap in the barn wall. She'd been hiding in a barn, and ran across an empty field. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the mountains blood red. She ducked behind the equipment shed, breathing hard. They let me go to my car last night. Said I was free to leave, but my tires were slashed. Distributor cap gone. Radio smashed. They stood there watching, smiling as I tried to start it. Sheriff Pembroke said, "Looks like you'll be staying for Sunday dinner." The camera caught movement in the distance. 3 figures walking through the morning mist. Even from far away, their identical gaits were visible. That slightly off-rhythm walk all the Pembrokes shared. Sarah ducked lower. There's something else, something worse. They're not just keeping this contained to their town. They talked about seeding other communities, sending family members out to marry, to spread their bloodline. Martha's sister apparently married someone in the next county. They visit every Thanksgiving. Bring the kids. The figures were getting closer. Sarah could hear them calling, "Miss Chen, breakfast time. The children are asking for you." She ran again, the camera bouncing, recording glimpses of the town waking up. Every house had smoke rising from chimneys. Every window had faces watching, always watching, with those pale, empty eyes. Sarah found temporary refuge in what looked like an old schoolhouse. Dust motes danced in the morning light, streaming through broken windows. She set the camera on a desk and collapsed into frame. Exhausted. "I found their records," she said, pulling folded papers from her jacket. Birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, all filed by Sheriff Pembroke, all keeping it legal on paper. "But look," she held up a birth certificate. "Mother, Mary Pembroke. Father, Joseph Pembroke. But here's Mary's birth certificate. Her parents, Mary Pembroke and Joseph Pembroke. Same names, different generation. Or maybe the same people. I can't tell anymore." She shuffled through more papers. "Death certificates are worse. Cause of death is always natural causes or accident. But there are notes in the margins, in different handwriting. Good marbling. Tender at 73 days. Save brain for pudding." The schoolhouse door creaked open. Sarah grabbed the camera, pointing it toward the entrance. David stood there, his mismatched arms hanging at his sides. "Found you," he said simply. "Mama says you're being rude. Guests don't hide from their hosts." "David," Sarah tried to sound calm. "You know this is wrong, don't you? Eating people? It's wrong." David tilted his head. "Wrong? Grandmother says wrong is just what outsiders call different. We've been doing this since before my grandfather was born. How can something be wrong if it's all we've ever known?" "Because," Sarah struggled for words, "how do you explain morality to someone raised without it?" "Because people feel pain. They suffer. Everything suffers," David replied. "The chickens suffer when we eat them. The pigs suffer. Even plants suffer," Grandmother says. "They scream when you cut them, just too quiet for us to hear. So if everything suffers, why not eat the best meat?" "What's the best meat, David?" He smiled, showing those too many teeth. Family meat is best because it's made of love." More footsteps. Samuel appeared, then Rebecca, still clutching her human hair doll. "The adults are coming," Rebecca announced. "They're bringing the nets." "Nets?" Sarah stood, backing away. Samuel's crooked jaw worked as he explained, "For when dinner tries to run." "Don't worry, Miss Chen, they're very gentle. They don't want to bruise the meat." Sarah ran, bursting through the schoolhouse back door. The camera caught glimpses of the chase that followed, figures emerging from every building, moving to cut off escape routes. They didn't run, just walked steadily, knowing the mountains formed a natural cage. The footage jumped. When it resumed, Sarah was in a root cellar whispering, "They caught me, drugged me with something." I woke up in their preparation room. They were measuring me, discussing cuts. Martha said I'd feed them for a month if they were careful. She showed her arm to the camera. Fresh cuts, precise and shallow. They took samples, cooked them right in front of me. Mad at the children taste test. Rebecca said I tasted exotic. Another jump. The timestamp now read 2 p.m. Sarah was back in the Pembroke house, the camera hidden, recording from an odd angle. The Sunday dinner preparation was in full swing. The kitchen was packed with Pembrokes, at least 15 of them, all working in eerie synchronization. Grandmother Pembroke directed from her chair, too twisted to stand for long. "The outsider meat goes in the good pot," she instructed. "The family meat in the everyday pot. Don't mix them." Detective Webb felt bile rise in his throat as he realized what was happening. They had 2 different stews going, one made from Sarah's samples, another from, "Where's Cousin Theodore?" someone asked. "He passed this morning," Martha answered casually. "Natural causes. He's in the everyday pot. They were eating their own dead." Of course they were. In a town this isolated, this inbred, death wasn't an ending. It was our recycling. The camera caught the children setting the table. It was massive, stretching the length of 2 rooms, set for at least 40 people. Each place setting had multiple forks, multiple knives, as if for a formal dinner party. Why so many utensils? Sarah's voice, from wherever she was hiding. David heard her. "Different courses need different tools. Finger fork, eye spoon, marrow picks. Grandmother says we may be country folk, but we're not savages." The irony would have been funny if it weren't so horrifying. More Pembrokes arrived. They all looked identical in the candlelight. Same hollow features, same hungry expressions, same genetic damage manifesting in different ways. Some limped. Some had humps. One woman's head was too small for her body. A man's fingers had grown together into flippers. "The blessing," Grandmother Pembroke announced. Everyone bowed their heads. "We thank the family for this feast," they said in unison. "For the blood that binds us, the flesh that feeds us, and the bones that build us. We are one body, eating of one body forever and ever." "Forever and ever," the children echoed. They began to eat. The everyday pot was served first. Chunks of meat that had been someone's Uncle Theodore that morning. They ate with reverence, commenting on the texture, the flavor, the quality. "He was always stringy," someone commented. "Even as a baby. That's the Pembroke Constitution," another replied. "We're tough stock." Then came Sarah's pot. Just small portions, carefully rationed. Each person received a single piece, which they ate slowly, savoring. Exotic, they agreed. "Different blood makes such a difference." Rebecca held up her piece. "Can I save mine? I want to make it last." "Eat it now, child," Martha instructed. "There'll be more." Miss Chen isn't going anywhere. The camera moved slightly, Sarah adjusting her position. The movement caught Sheriff Pembroke's attention. His head turned slowly, like an owl, until he was staring directly at the camera's hiding spot. "Miss Chen," he called out, "won't you join us? Your meat is delicious, but your company would be better." Sarah didn't move. "We know you're there," Grandmother Pembroke cackled. "We can smell you." Different blood has a different smell. Like flowers in a slaughterhouse, they all stood simultaneously, moving toward Sarah's hiding place. The camera shook as she tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Hands grabbed her, dragged her to the table, forced her into a chair. "There," Martha said, smoothing Sarah's hair with fingers that had just been in the stew. "Isn't this better? Family dinner should include everyone." They placed a bowl in front of Sarah. The liquid was thick, dark, with things floating in it. A wedding ring glinted in the depths. "Eat," Grandmother Pembroke commanded. "No, you'll eat eventually. Hunger always wins. We've seen it before." The salesman lasted 4 days before he begged for a bowl. His own leg was in it by then, but he ate anyway. Sarah gagged. The camera, now placed on the table, recorded everything in horrific detail. "Tell her about the old days," Sheriff Pembroke suggested. "Tell her how we came to be." Grandmother Pembroke leaned back, her twisted spine creaking. "We were normal once. Back in 1841, when the first Pembrokes came to these mountains. But the winter of 1843 was hard. No game, no crops, nothing but snow and hunger. Great-great-great-grandmother Pembroke had to make a choice. Watch her children starve or feed them the only meat available. Her husband," Martha continued, knowing the story by heart. "He was already dead from the cold. Seemed a waste to bury good meat when her babies were crying. But once you taste it," Grandmother continued, "everything else tastes wrong. Like eating shadows when you've had sunlight. So when the thaw came, we didn't stop. Why would we? We'd discovered the truth, that all meat is just meat, and the taboo was just outsider nonsense." Rebecca piped up. "And family meat is love." "That's right, child. Family meat is love." Detective Webb watched Sarah's face crumble. She was realizing something, that there was no malice here, no evil in the traditional sense. This was purely generational trauma and isolation, twisted into something monstrous. They genuinely believed they were normal, that everyone else was wrong. "You send people out," Sarah said suddenly. "To marry, to have children in other places," Sheriff Pembroke smiled. "Got to spread the love. My nephew's in Ohio now. Married a nice girl. They'll visit next summer. Bring the family." The implications were staggering. How many Pembrokes were out there, living seemingly normal lives, carrying this poison in their blood, waiting to spread it? The camera recorded the rest of dinner, the casual conversation about whose turn it was to contribute next, the children playing with finger bones like toys, the discussion of Sarah's nutritional value and how long they could make her last. As the meal ended, Martha stood. "Time for bed, children. Tomorrow's a school day." "School?" Sarah laughed, hysteria creeping in. "You have school?" "Of course," Martha replied. "Reading, writing, and recipes. How else will they learn the family traditions?" The camera recorded them, clearing the table, washing dishes made from what might have been skulls, putting leftover meat in the smokehouse. All perfectly domestic, perfectly routine, perfectly insane. The last thing the camera recorded was Grandmother Pembroke's face, leaning in close. "You'll stop fighting soon," she whispered. "They always do. And once you accept it, you'll realize we're not the monsters. We're just ahead of the curve. When civilization falls, when the supermarket's empty, everyone will become like us. We're just early adopters." She reached out and turned off the camera. Static filled the screen. The fourth tape began with chaos. October 17th, 1987, 7:22 a.m. The camera was moving erratically, Sarah Chen running through dense forest. Her breathing was ragged, desperate. Blood ran down her arm from fresh cuts. "They're coming," she gasped into the camera. "All of them. The whole town." Behind her, voices echoed through the trees. Not shouting, just calling out conversationally, like a twisted game of hide and seek. "Miss Jean," Rebecca's young voice carried on the wind. "We're playing the hunting game." "You're the deer." Sarah stumbled, caught herself against a tree. The camera showed her hand, missing her pinky finger. The wound was wrapped in dirty cloth, seeping. "They took it while I slept," she whispered. "Said it was interest on the meat they'd eventually collect. Rebecca has it in a jar. She's saving it for a special occasion." A bell began ringing in the distance, deep resonant echoing off the mountains. "Town meeting." Multiple voices called out. "All Pembrokes to the meeting house." Sarah crept forward, using the trees as cover. Through the foliage, the camera caught glimpses of the townspeople walking toward a large building at the town center. They moved in small groups, all with that same off-kilter gait, all heading to the same destination. "I have to document this," Sarah whispered. "If I die here, someone needs to know what these things are." She followed at a distance, the camera recording through gaps in bushes and broken windows. The meeting house was the largest building in Marrow's Hollow, a warped cathedral to their twisted existence. Every Pembroke filed inside, from the youngest children to the most deformed elders. Sarah found a loose board in the back wall, pried it open enough to slide the camera through. The view was partially obstructed, but the audio was clear. Sheriff Pembroke stood at a podium made from bones, human bones, polished and fitted together with disturbing craftsmanship. "Family meeting comes to order," he announced. "First item, the outsider situation," murmurs through the crowd. The camera caught fragments of faces, all variations of the same genetic template. "She's strong," someone called out. "Good breeding stock. Her blood could help the children," another added. "New genes might fix Samuel's jaw." Martha stood up. "I propose we keep her for breeding. The last outsider gave us 3 good births before she expired." Detective Webb felt his stomach turn. There had been others. Of course, there had been others. Grandmother Pembroke's voice cracked through the room. The last outsider's children were weak. 2 heads, no eyes, couldn't survive past weaning. Different blood doesn't always mix well with Pembroke pure, but we need to try, Sheriff Pembroke argued. "Look at us. Look at what we're becoming." The camera panned across the crowd. The genetic damage was undeniable. Some Pembrokes could barely walk. Others had features so distorted they hardly looked human. One man's skull had grown sideways. A woman had no nose, just slits. "We are becoming perfect," Grandmother Pembroke declared. "Pure, distilled down to essence. We are becoming monsters." A voice from the back. The camera swung to find the speaker. A younger Pembroke, maybe 20, less deformed than the others. "Look at us. Look at what we've become. This isn't purity, it's degradation." Shocked silence. Thomas Pembroke, Sheriff Pembroke's voice was ice. "You dare speak against the family?" Thomas stood his ground. "I've been to the outside. I've seen normal people. We're not pure. We're polluted. Poisoned by generations of love," Grandmother Pembroke interrupted. "Of keeping the family together. Would you rather we dilute ourselves with outsider filth?" "Yes," Thomas shouted. "Yes! Anything is better than this. We eat our dead. We eat our young when they're born, too wrong to live. A wet thunk. Thomas's words cut off. The camera caught him falling, a hatchet buried in his skull. David stood behind him, his longer arms still extended from the throw. "Good boy," Grandmother Pembroke approved. "Family protects family from wrong thinking." The crowd erupted in applause. Children cheered. Thomas's body was immediately set upon, people pulling out knives, discussing cuts. "Waste not," someone said cheerfully. Thomas always had good meat on him. Sarah's gasp was audible on the recording. Sheriff Pembroke's head snapped toward the sound. "She's here," he announced. Watching, learning. The entire congregation turned toward Sarah's hiding spot. Their faces were rapturous, eyes glowing with fanatic fervor. "Come out, Miss Chen," Martha called. "See how we handle dissent. See how we maintain purity." Sarah pulled back, but the camera kept recording through the crack. "Second item of business," Sheriff Pembroke continued, as if nothing had happened. "The expansion." Detective Webb leaned forward. "Expansion?" "Brother." Marcus in Ohio reports success. 3 children with his outsider wife. He's begun their education. Small doses of special meat in their regular food. They're developing a taste. Sister Louise in Pennsylvania has married, another reported. Modeste de Dau. Her husband's family owns a pig farm. Perfect cover for processing. Cousin Theodore in Kentucky, someone began, then remembered. "Oh, right. We ate Theodore." Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. "His son continues the mission," Sheriff Pembroke clarified. "Young Theodore has identified an isolated community in Tennessee. 7 families, little contact with the outside world. Prime for conversion." Sarah's breathing quickened. This wasn't just one isolated town. It was spreading, metastasizing like cancer through rural America. "How many are we now?" someone asked. Sheriff Pembroke pulled out a ledger. 43 here in Marrow's Hollow, 17 in Ohio, 12 in Pennsylvania, 8 in Kentucky, 22 in West Tennessee, 6 in Arkansas. He continued listing states' numbers. Over 200 Pembrokes, spread across 13 states, all maintaining the traditions, all spreading the infection. By the time Rebecca's generation comes of age, Sheriff Pembroke proclaimed, "We'll be in every state, quiet, careful, feeding and breeding." Rebecca stood up, still clutching her doll. "Will I get to travel, Mama?" "Spread the love." "Of course, dear," Martha replied. "You'll marry cousin brother James when you're of age, move to Florida, start a new branch of the family tree." "Family wreath," Rebecca corrected. "Trees are for outsiders," more laughter. Then Grandmother Pembroke raised her gnarled hand for silence. The final matter, the feast. The congregation grew excited, whispering eagerly. "Tomorrow marks the 146th anniversary of the first feeding," Grandmother announced. "When great-great-great-grandmother Pembroke made the choice that saved us all. We will celebrate as tradition demands. The lottery." Children squealed. The lottery. Sheriff Pembroke produced a wooden box, ancient and stained. Every Pembroke of age draws. The chosen one achieves the highest honor, feeding the family with love. They actually looked excited. People pushed forward, eager to put their names in. The camera caught their faces, rapturous at the thought of being eaten. "It's not suicide," Martha explained to her children, though really performing for Sarah's benefit. "It's transformation, becoming one with everyone, living forever in the family. I hope it's me," Samuel said through his crooked jaw. "I'm tired of hurting. Your time will come," Martha assured him. "If not tomorrow, then someday. We all feed the family eventually." The meeting continued. Discussions of harvest schedules. Human harvest, Sarah realized with horror. Debates about preservation methods. A lecture from Grandmother about proper butchering techniques, using Thomas's still-warm corpse as a demonstration aid. The children took notes. This was their schooling, learning to process human bodies with the same casual efficiency others learned arithmetic. Then something changed. The camera caught movement outside the other windows. Cars, multiple cars approaching the town. Outsiders, someone hissed. Sheriff Pembroke looked unconcerned. State police. Right on schedule. Sarah's heart leaped. Rescue! The camera shook with her excitement. Places everyone, Sheriff Pembroke commanded. You know the drill. The transformation was instantaneous. Knives disappeared. Blood was quickly wiped away. Thomas's body was dragged to the basement. Within seconds, the meeting house looked like a normal, if poor, town hall. People adjusted their postures, hiding their deformities as best they could. The most twisted Pembrokes retreated to back rooms. The least damaged came forward, arranging themselves to look like a normal town meeting. "Remember," Grandmother Pembroke instructed, "we're discussing the Harvest Festival. Corn and pumpkins. Nothing more." 3 state troopers entered. The camera caught their faces, suspicious but not alarmed. Yet, Sheriff Pembroke, the lead trooper, a tall black man with sergeant stripes, extended his hand. "Sergeant Williams, we're looking for a social worker. Sarah Chen, her car was found abandoned." "Social worker?" Sheriff Pembroke's confusion seemed genuine. "Haven't seen any social workers. We don't much like government interference up here." Her last known location was heading to Marrow's Hollow, Sergeant Williams insisted. 3 days ago. Must have gotten lost, Martha offered. "These mountains, roads look all the same. Poor thing probably ended up in Beckley or somewhere." The troopers looked around the room. The Pembrokes stared back, projecting innocence. The camera caught Rebecca hiding her human hair doll behind her back. "Mind if we look around?" Sergeant Williams asked. "Course not," Sheriff Pembroke smiled. "Nothing to hide here." Sarah was moving, the camera swinging wildly. She had to get to them, had to signal for help. But when she reached the window, what she saw stopped her cold. The 3 troopers were being led on a tour by Sheriff Pembroke. But behind them, barely visible, other Pembrokes were moving Thomas's body from building to building, staying just out of sight. It was coordinated, practiced. They'd done this before. "Please," Sarah whispered, "please look closer." But the troopers saw only what they expected, a poor, isolated, inbred community. Unfortunate but not criminal. The genetic damage was obvious, but in Appalachia, such things weren't uncommon. Sergeant Williams paused at the smokehouse. "What's in there?" "Venison," Sheriff Pembroke replied easily. "Just took a buck yesterday. Want to see?" He opened the door. The camera zoomed in desperately. Sarah knew what was really hanging there. But from the trooper's angle, in the dark interior, the shapes could indeed be deer. The Pembrokes had arranged them perfectly. "No need," Sergeant Williams said, though his nose wrinkled at the smell. They were leaving. Sarah had to do something. She stood up, ready to run to them, when a hand fell on her shoulder. David stood behind her, his longer arm reaching impossibly far. "Don't," he whispered. "Please, Miss Chen. If you bring the outsiders, we'll have to eat them too. All of them. Their families will come looking. More eating. It never ends once it starts. That's what you deserve," Sarah hissed. David's young face was sad. "Maybe, but what about their children? When we eat the parents, we keep the children. Raise them as Pembrokes. Do you want that? More children like us?" The moral calculation was horrifying. Let them go to save others from being consumed, or cry out and potentially doom dozens. The camera recorded Sarah's paralysis. The troopers reached their cars. Then Sergeant Williams stopped, turned. He was looking at something on the ground. He knelt, picked it up. A finger. A human finger missed in the cleanup. Sarah's finger. His hand went to his weapon. "Sheriff Pembroke, the attack was instant. Every Pembroke moved at once, swarming the troopers. They didn't stand a chance. Within seconds they were down, overwhelmed by sheer numbers." "Well," Sheriff Pembroke sighed, looking at the bodies, "guess we're having a bigger feast than planned." The camera recorded the aftermath. The troopers' cars pushed into the ravine. Bodies dragged to the preparation room. The entire town working together with terrifying efficiency. "This is why we don't call for help," Grandmother Pembroke announced, seeming to address Sarah directly. "Outsiders bring more outsiders. Best to keep things in the family." The congregation dispersed, chattering excitedly about the unexpected bounty. 3 healthy adult males would feed them 4 weeks. Sarah was alone again, hidden, trapped. The camera captured her tears. "They're organized," she whispered. "They're spreading. And no one knows. No one knows what's growing in these mountains, what's spreading across the country. By the time people realize, it'll be too late." She looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, if you found this tape, don't come here. Don't try to save me. I'm already dead. But stop them. Find the others. In Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. Stop them before footsteps." Rebecca appeared in frame, her doll tucked under one arm. "Miss Chen, Grandmother says it's time for your bath. We need you clean for tomorrow. You're going to be part of the celebration." The camera recorded Rebecca's smile, innocent and monstrous in equal measure. "Don't worry," the little girl added. "We'll make it special. You're going to feed everyone. Isn't that wonderful? You'll be part of us forever." The screen went black. Detective Webb inserted the 5th tape with trembling hands. The timestamp read October 17, 1987, 11:47 p.m. Sarah Chen's face appeared in candlelight, her features gaunt, her left eye now completely swollen shut. She was in what looked like an attic, surrounded by moldering boxes and furniture. "They're preparing for tomorrow's feast," she whispered. "The whole town is awake, cooking, getting ready. I managed to slip away while they were processing. The troopers." She held up an ancient leather-bound book, its cover stained and warped. "I found this. The Bloodline book. It's everything, their whole history." Sarah opened the book carefully. The pages were handwritten in various inks, some entries so old they were barely legible. The camera focused on the first page. The Book of Pembroke Begetting. Started 1843 by Margaret Pembroke, maintained by every generation hence. Sarah's voice shook as she read. Entry 1. Winter of 1843. My husband James died of the cold. My 4 children were starving, William, Mary, Joseph, and little Margaret. I made the choice any mother would make. James was dead meat going to waste while my babies cried. I fed them their father. I told them it was... Dear, they lived. She turned the page. Entry 2. Spring 1844. The children remember the taste of their father. Nothing else satisfies them. William says all meat tastes like shadows now. I understand. I taste it too. The hunger for more. Entry 3. Summer fabset like tasty faftatel. The hunger for more. Entry 3. Summer 1844. A traveller came through, a peddler. The children were so hungry. He was not family, so it was easier. We shared him equally. Little Margaret got the eyes. She said they tasted like jelly candy. Sarah gagged but continued reading, flipping through pages. It gets worse, so much worse. Entry 27, 8051. Mary has married her brother William. It seemed natural. Who else could understand our ways? They have produced 3 children. 2 lived. We ate the third. It had too many problems to survive anyway. Waste not. The camera caught Sarah's tears. They documented everything. Every marriage, every birth, every meal. She found an entry from 1867. Joseph married his niece-daughter Elizabeth. She was also his half-sister through Mary. The bloodline grows stronger, more pure. Outsiders would not understand. We keep to ourselves now. 1889. The town of Marrow's Hollow is ours completely. 7 families of Pembrokes, all related, all understanding. We have ceased using terms like incest or cannibalism. These are outsider words for outsider morals. We simply call it love. Sarah flipped forward, the entries becoming more disturbing. 1902. Little Thomas was born with no eyes and extra mouths. We fed him to his parents. They said he tasted of sadness. 1915. The Great War brings refugees through the mountains. We feast for months. The children grow fat and happy. We send some to establish new roots in Ohio. The family must spread. 1923. Prohibition brings federal agents. They find our stills, but not our smokehouse. We let them leave. Dead federal agents bring too many questions. Detective Webb watched Sarah's face change as she reached more recent entries. 1941. She read, "The war brings rationing to the outside world. We laugh. We have never wanted for meat. The family feeds the family. Always." 1958. Television comes to nearby towns. We forbid it. Outsider propaganda would corrupt the children. They must know only the family ways. 1967. Martha Pembroke marries Martin Pembroke. They are brother-sister, cousin-cousin, and uncle-niece through various paths. The bloodline rejoices. Their children will be pure. Sarah found a family tree, or rather the family wreath, drawn across multiple pages, lines connected and reconnected in impossible ways. Some names appeared multiple times in different generations. The same person could be their own grandfather through the twisted logic of their breeding. Here, Sarah pointed to a recent entry. 1974. We begin the seeding project. Selected Pembrokes, those who can pass for normal, are sent to establish in other communities. They will marry outsiders, have children, then slowly introduce the traditions. Within 3 generations, new communities will be ours. The book contained detailed records of the seeding families, names, locations, progress reports. Cincinnati, Marcus Pembroke, married to Jane Sullivan, 1979, 3 children. Jane consumed 1983 after difficult 4th pregnancy, children being raised properly. Eldest shows promise, 8 family cat without prompting. Pittsburgh, Louise Pembroke married to Robert Chen, 1981. Sarah stopped. Chen. Oh God, that's my maiden name. My uncle Robert married a woman from West Virginia in 1981. Her hands shook as she continued reading. Louise reports successful integration. Husband's family accepts her cooking. They don't know the special ingredient in the meatloaf. Children developing properly, especially excited about niece Sarah, shows compassion that would make excellent breeder. Sarah dropped the book, retching. They've been watching me planning. This wasn't random, they requested me specifically. She picked up the book again, frantic now. Where else? Where else are they? The list was extensive. Pembrokes in 37 communities across 15 states. Small towns mostly, isolated places where strange behavior might go unnoticed. But some were in suburbs of major cities, spreading their infection into the heart of America. Portland, successful integration into commune culture. They accept our alternative lifestyle. Burlington, organic farm established. Customers praise our heritage pork. If they only knew. Austin, food truck business thriving. Authentic mountain barbecue winning awards. Sarah laughed, hysteria creeping in. They're not just spreading, they're commercializing. People are eating. Oh God, people are eating people and don't even know it. She found the most recent entries, written in Grandmother Pembroke's shaky hand. October 1987, the Chen girl arrives as planned. Louise's information was correct. She is ideal, compassionate enough to come alone, naive enough to be trapped. Her bloodline will strengthen ours, whether she consents or not. October 16, the girl resists but weakens. She will break soon. They always break. Hunger or horror, Everyone breaks. October 17. State police eliminated. 3 adult males healthy. The feast tomorrow will be glorious. The Chen girl will participate or become the main course. Either way, she joins the family. Sarah turned to the last written page. Tomorrow's feast plan, detailed down to the minute. Her name appeared repeatedly, not as a guest, but as an ingredient. 6 a.m. Prepare the Chen girl. Cleansing and blessing. 8 a.m. The lottery for the honored sacrifice. 10 a.m. Begin the cooking. Chen girl assists or replaces. Noon. The feast begins, but there was more. Future plans, names of other social workers, police officers, government officials who might investigate, all marked for recruitment or consumption. They're going to kill anyone who comes looking, Sarah whispered. Make them disappear just like me. A new section caught her eye. The genetics problem. Recent entries showed growing concern about their degradation, sketches of Pembroke children becoming less and less human with each generation. One drawing showed a child that was basically a torso with teeth. We need fresh blood, grandmother had written, but fresh blood resists. Solution, take children young, raise them as Pembrokes. They won't know any other way. Sarah found a list. Target acquisitions, orphanages, foster care systems, homeless camps, places where children might disappear without much investigation. Portland Orphanage, 6 children acquired 1985, 3 survived integration, 2 showing promise, 1 reserved for winter feast. Memphis Homeless Camp, 4 children acquired 1986, all thriving. Youngest has developed taste, bit other child's finger off in play, swallowed before adults could intervene. Shows promise, footsteps on the stairs. Sarah grabbed the camera, clutching the book. Miss Chen, David's voice. Grandmother wants the book back. And you, it's time for your cleansing. Sarah backed toward the attic window. David, you've read this book. You know what you are, what your family has become. David appeared in frame, his mismatched arms hanging sadly. I know exactly what we are, Miss Chen. We're the future. When the bombs fall, when society collapses, when the supermarket's empty, everyone will become like us. We're just evolution, ahead of schedule. Your devolution, Sarah spat. Look at yourself. Your arms don't match. Your siblings can barely function. Your cousins are more monster than human. David smiled his too wide smile. Monster is just a word for something different, and we are different. We're free. Free from your morals, your taboos, your squeamishness. We do what all life does, consume and reproduce. We're just more honest about it. He stepped closer. The book tells our truth, but it doesn't tell the whole truth. What do you mean? David pointed to the book's binding. Feel it. Sarah ran her fingers along the spine. The leather was strange, too soft, with an odd texture. That's great-great-grandmother Margaret, David explained. When she died, we bound the book in her skin, so she could hold the family history forever. Sarah dropped the book in horror. David picked it up reverently. See, you still have outsider squeamishness, but to us it's beautiful. She holds our history. She is our history. More footsteps. Rebecca and Samuel appeared. The cleansing tub is ready, Rebecca announced, her doll dancing in her hands. Grandmother added the special salts to make your meat tender. Samuel's crooked jaw worked as he added, if you don't come, they'll send the uncles. The uncles aren't gentle. Sarah looked between the children, these innocent monsters, raised in horror, knowing nothing else. What if I told you there's another way? She tried desperately. A world where you don't have to eat people, where you can be normal. The children laughed, not cruelly, but with genuine amusement. Normal. Rebecca giggled. Miss Chen, we are normal. For Marrow's hollow. Normal is just what everyone around you does, and everyone around us eats people. Besides, David added, we've tasted normal food, outsider food. It's like eating cardboard after you've had real meat. Could you go back to cardboard? They surrounded Sarah, small hands surprisingly strong. The book stays here, David said as they pulled her toward the stairs. But you're about to become part of the story. Chapter 147, The Chen Integration. Either you join us at the table or you join us on it. The camera recorded their descent, Sarah's struggles, the children's casual strength. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, the extended Pembroke family waited, all 43 of them, eyes glowing with anticipation. Tomorrow, Grandmother Pembroke announced, we feast. Tonight we prepare. The camera caught one last image, the bloodline book, left on the attic floor, open to a blank page, a page that would soon contain Sarah's entry, one way or another. Then hands covered the lens, and everything went dark. Detective Webb sat back, his mind reeling. The book confirmed everything, and made it worse. This wasn't isolated madness. It was organized, spreading, methodical. The Pembrokes weren't just cannibals. They were colonizers, spreading their infection across America, one family at a time. And somewhere out there, in 37 communities, Pembroke seeds were growing, teaching their children that human meat was just another food group. He reached for his phone to call for backup, then stopped. How many Pembrokes were already in the system? How many Louise Chens had married into normal families, slowly introducing their traditions? How many people had already eaten human flesh without knowing it, served by a smiling Pembroke at a community barbecue or food truck? The thought made him rush to the bathroom, where he vomited until nothing was left. When he returned, the 6th tape was waiting, the Harvest Festival. His hands trembled as he inserted it. Tomorrow would be October 18th, 1987, the 46th anniversary of the first feeding, Sarah Chen's last day. The 6th tape began in darkness, muffled sounds, crying, whispers, prayers. Then fluorescent light flooded the frame as someone removed a cloth from the camera. Sarah Chen was suspended in what looked like a modified barn, her arms stretched above her head, feet barely touching the ground. Her clothes had been replaced with a white cotton shift, stained with old blood. "Good morning, Miss Chen," Martha Pembroke's voice, cheerful as always. "It's the big day, the Harvest Festival. You should be honored. Outsiders rarely get to participate." The camera, positioned on a tripod, showed the full scene. Sarah wasn't alone. 3 bodies hung beside her, the state troopers, still alive but barely conscious, prepared in the same way. "Please," Sarah's voice was hoarse, "you don't have to do this." "Have to?" Grandmother Pembroke shuffled into view, more twisted than ever in the harsh light. "Child, we want to. It's celebration, it's communion, it's love." The old woman approached Sergeant Williams, running her gnarled fingers along his arm. "This one's got good muscle, been eating clean. City folk sometimes taste of chemicals, but this one's pure." Williams stirred, his eyes focusing. When he saw his situation, he began to thrash. "What the fuck? Where are my men? What did you do?" "Shish," Martha soothed. "Save your strength. The tenderizing process works better if you're relaxed." Rebecca skipped in, her doll tucked under her arm. "The lottery box is ready. Can we draw now?" "After preparation," Grandmother corrected. "Tradition must be observed." The camera recorded the next hour in horrific detail. The Pembrokes worked with practiced efficiency, preparing their victims like a production line. They washed them, marked specific cuts with charcoal, discussed portions and cooking methods. "The Chen girl's liver looks healthy," someone noted. "That'll go nice with onions." "Save the eyes," another called. "Promise them to the children." Sarah found her voice. "Sergeant Williams, your badge number. Say your badge number. They're recording this. Evidence." Williams, despite his terror, understood. "Badge 447. Sergeant Marcus Williams. Badge 447. October 18th, 1987. Multiple homicides in progress. Cannibalism. Send everything. Send the National Guard." Sheriff Pembroke laughed. "You think this tape will get out? We've been doing this for 146 years. How many tapes you think we've buried?" He pulled out a box from under a table. Inside were dozens of recordings, cassette tapes, film reels, even old wax cylinders. Every few years, someone thinks they'll document us, expose us. But the tapes always stay here, with us, part of the family archives. David entered, carrying the lottery box. Despite everything, the ceremony proceeded with ritual formality. Every Pembroke of age placed their name in the box, eager for the honor of being the willing sacrifice. "Why?" Sarah asked desperately. "Why do you want to be eaten?" An elderly Pembroke man answered, his voice rapturous. "To become one with everyone. To live forever in the family flesh. My grandfather is part of me. Literally. I ate him when I was 7. Now he lives in my bones, my blood. When they eat me, I'll live in theirs. It's immortality," Martha added. "The only real immortality. Not in heaven but in the family." Rebecca drew the name with great ceremony. "Uncle Cousin Timothy." A middle-aged Pembroke stepped forward, tears of joy streaming down his face. "I'm honored. I'm so honored." The camera caught him embracing his relatives, kissing his sister wife, tousling his nephew son's hair. He walked to a prepared table and lay down voluntarily, smiling. "Wait," William shouted. "You can't just, he's mentally ill. You're all mentally ill." "Mental illness is an outsider concept," Sheriff Pembroke replied. "We're perfectly sane by our standards. You're the ones who seem crazy to us, burying good meat, letting it rot, while people go hungry." The preparation of Uncle Cousin Timothy was too horrific for even Detective Webb to fully process.
The man remained conscious, talking lovingly to his family as they began. He spoke of memories, of shared meals, of the honor of feeding those he loved. Sarah turned away, but the camera recorded everything. By 8 a.m., the feast preparation was in full swing. The entire town had transformed into an outdoor kitchen. Massive pots boiled over fires, smokehouses churned, tables were laid with disturbing elegance, fine china that might have been stolen from victims over decades, silverware polished to shine, centerpieces of mountain flowers mixed with small bones. The camera was moved outside, positioned to capture the whole scene. It looked almost normal from a distance, a community preparing for a harvest festival, until you looked closer and saw what was in the pots. "The Chen girl will help serve," grandmother announced. "It's tradition. The newest family member serves the feast." "I'm not family," Sarah spat. "You will be," grandmother smiled. One way or another, they forced Sarah to carry plates, ladle stew, pass bread. The camera caught her tears as she served human flesh to children who thanked her politely. Rebecca held up her plate. "Miss Chen, you forgot my special piece." She was holding Sarah's severed finger from days ago, now cooked and garnished. "Eat it, Rebecca," Martha commanded. "Show Miss Chen how much we appreciate her contribution." The little girl bit into the finger like a chicken drumstick. You taste worried, Miss Chen, but also sweet, like fear candy." The feast continued. Uncle Cousin Timothy was served with reverence, each family member taking a portion, sharing memories of him as they ate. They laughed, cried, celebrated his life while consuming his death. Sergeant Williams had stopped struggling, his mind apparently broken by what he was witnessing. The other troopers were catatonic. Then, around noon, cars appeared on the mountain road. Many cars. "More visitors," someone called out. But Sheriff Pembroke looked worried for the first time. These weren't a few state troopers. This was a convoy. FBI vans, SWAT vehicles. A helicopter appeared over the mountain ridge. "How?" he whispered. Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. "My insulin pump. It has a GPS tracker. Medical device. Tracks my location in case of diabetic emergency. You hillbilly fucks didn't even know to check." The Pembrokes scattered like roaches, grabbing children, abandoning the feast. But the mountains that had protected them now trapped them. There was nowhere to run. "Freeze! FBI!" Agents swarmed the town, weapons drawn. The camera kept recording as chaos erupted. Some Pembrokes fought, others ran. The children screamed in confusion as their parents were tackled, handcuffed. Rebecca stood in the middle of it all, clutching her doll, looking lost. "Are we playing a new game?" she asked an FBI agent. The agent looked at her, this little girl with her lazy eye, holding a doll made with human hair, bits of flesh still on her face from the feast, and didn't know whether to arrest her or protect her. Detective Webb watched Sarah being cut down, wrapped in a blanket, sobbing with relief and trauma. Sergeant Williams was freed, immediately vomiting, pointing at the pots, trying to explain what couldn't be explained. The FBI found the basement, the smokehouse, the preparation room. The camera caught their faces, hardened agents running outside to vomit, calling for backup, more backup, all the backup. But then something strange happened.
Grandmother Pembroke, standing in handcuffs, began to laugh. Not hysteria, but genuine amusement. "You think you've won," she cackled. "You found one hive. One. There are dozens more, hundreds of us out there, in your normal towns, shopping at your stores, teaching your children, cooking your food." An agent grabbed her. "Where? Where are the others?" She smiled with too many teeth. "Everywhere. We're everywhere now. Check your food trucks, your farm-to-table restaurants, your organic butcher shops. We've been feeding you for years. You've been eating people and praising the flavor." "She's lying," the agent said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Am I? When was the last time you had really good barbecue? Meat so tender it fell off the bone, so rich you couldn't stop eating. That was probably us, probably someone who thought they were buying heritage pork." The camera captured the agents' faces changing as the implications hit them. "The Andersons in Ohio," grandmother continued, "the Smiths in Pennsylvania, the Johnsons in Tennessee. Such normal names we chose, such normal lives we live, until dinner time." Sheriff Pembroke added, "You'll never find them all. They're too integrated now. Teachers, doctors, farmers, politicians. We had 146 years to spread. We're in your bloodstream now, America." The FBI began checking their records, cross-referencing missing persons with grandmother's claims. The numbers were staggering, hundreds of unexplained disappearances in rural areas, food poisoning outbreaks that were never solved, isolated communities that had gone dark over the decades. Jesus Christ, Detective Webb heard an agent say. How many are there? The camera caught one last crucial moment. As the Pembroke children were being loaded into protective custody vans, Rebecca turned to Sarah. Miss Chen, will you visit me? Wherever they take us. Sarah knelt beside the little girl, this innocent monster. Rebecca, where they're taking you, they'll help you understand that what your family did was wrong. Rebecca tilted her head. But if it's wrong, why did it feel like love? Sarah had no answer. As the van door closed, Rebecca pressed her doll against the window. The doll with human hair, the doll that would be taken as evidence, the doll that would haunt Sarah's dreams forever. The tape continued for another hour, documenting the systematic dismantling of Marrow's Hollow. Every house searched, every basement excavated, the body count rising, dozens of victims, some recent, some decades old, all partially consumed. But the worst discovery came at the end. In the town hall, agents found a map, the Pembroke spread, documented in detail, red pins in 63 locations across America, not the 37 mentioned in the book. That was old information. They'd accelerated their expansion. Each pin had a thread connecting it to other pins, showing family connections, marriage alliances, trade routes, a network of cannibals, hidden in plain sight, growing stronger each year. One agent stared at the map, then at his phone. There's 120 miles from my house. The Hendersons, they run a farm. I buy eggs from them. My kids play with their kids. The tape ended with Sarah Chen being loaded into an ambulance. As they drove away, she looked back at Marrow's Hollow one last time. The FBI was already starting to burn the buildings, trying to erase the physical evidence of the horror, but the camera caught something they missed. In the forest, just barely visible through the trees, figures watched, Pembrokes who had escaped. They stood perfectly still, patient, waiting. The ambulance drove on, carrying Sarah to safety. The figures melted back into the forest. The screen went to static. The seventh tape was different. It wasn't from 19... The timestamp read November 3, 2023, 36 years after the Marrow's Hollow raid. The camera focused on an older woman in a psychiatric facility interview room. Sarah Chen, now 64, her hair grey, her face lined with decades of trauma. Across from her sat Detective Webb himself, also older, holding a recorder. They said you wanted to talk, Webb said. After all these years of silence, Sarah laughed bitterly. Silence, that's what they wanted. The FBI, the government, classify everything, pretend Marrow's Hollow never happened, pretend the Pembrokes were all caught, weren't they? No. Sarah leaned forward. That's why I'm talking now, because I've been watching, tracking, and they're winning. She pulled out a folder, thick with newspaper clippings, printed emails, photographs. 2015. She began. Restaurant in Portland wins award for innovative cuisine. Owner's last name, Henderson. Maiden name, Pembroke. Look at the reviews. Meat so tender it melts. Flavors I've never experienced. Addictive quality I can't describe. Webb examined the clippings. That doesn't mean. 2018. Missing persons spike in rural Tennessee. 17 people over 2 years. Local sheriff says they're runaways. Sheriff's name, Johnson. Mother's maiden name, Pembroke. More clippings, more connections. 2020. COVID-19 hits. Meat processing plants shut down. But certain areas never report shortages. Small towns with local suppliers. Guess which families run those suppliers? The evidence was overwhelming. Sarah had spent decades tracking the Pembroke diaspora, following their spread through genealogy websites, social media, news reports. They learned from Marrow's Hollow, she explained, became more careful, no more isolation, no more obvious inbreeding. They integrated fully, married outsiders, had normal-looking children, but they kept the traditions alive, in secret. She showed Webb a Facebook page. Rebecca Pembroke, remember her? The little girl with the doll. The page showed a normal-looking woman in her 40s, smiling at a backyard barbecue. Husband, 3 kids, white picket fence. She was released from psychiatric care at 18, Sarah continued, declared rehabilitated, moved to Oregon, married a nice man named Tom Mitchell, has 3 beautiful children. That's good, right? She recovered. Sarah zoomed in on one photo. Rebecca's daughter, maybe 7, at a school science fair. Her project, alternative protein sources for sustainable living. Read the description, Sarah said. Webb read aloud. Tabitha Mitchell explores how different cultures throughout history have utilized every part of available protein sources, challenging Western taboos about what constitutes acceptable food. She's 7, Sarah emphasized, 7, and already being taught to question taboos about food sources. Another photo. Rebecca's son at a butcher shop, learning to cut meat. The shop's name, Ethical Harvest. Ethical, Sarah laughed bitterly. They've rebranded. It's not cannibalism anymore. It's sustainable protein. It's radical lockeverism. It's cultural tradition. She pulled up a website. The New Harvest Movement. Thousands of members. They advocate for expanding protein choices and questioning arbitrary food taboos. They don't say cannibalism. They use terms like post-mortem protein reclamation and consensual biorecycling. Webb felt sick. Surely the FBI. The FBI can't arrest people for ideology, and the Pembrokes are careful now. They wait for natural deaths. They get consent. They have lawyers. They call it a religious practice, protected under the First Amendment. Sarah showed him legal documents, court cases where Pembroke descendants had won the right to practice their cultural traditions in private. But the murders, what murders? Sarah asked. People disappear all the time. Homeless vanish and no one looks. Hikers get lost. Drug addicts OD. And if those bodies never get found, if they end up in someone's freezer instead of a morgue, who's to know? She pulled up missing persons statistics. The numbers were staggering, but Webb knew most of these cases were never solved anyway. Here's the worst part, Sarah continued. She opened her laptop, showing a video. This was posted last week. The video showed a young woman, pretty, normal-looking, speaking earnestly to the camera. "Hi, I'm Ashley Pembroke Henderson, and I want to talk about ending food waste. Every year, millions of pounds of protein go into the ground, buried or burned, while people starve. Our ancestors understood that all protein has value. It's time we moved past outdated taboos and embraced sustainable practices." The comments were horrifying. Thousands of people agreeing, arguing that cannibalism taboos were cultural imperialism, that indigenous peoples practiced ritual anthropophagy, that in survival situations it was acceptable, so why not in controlled circumstances? "They're normalizing it," Sarah whispered, "making it academic, philosophical, and people are listening." Webb stared at the screen. "This can't be legal. It's just talk, just ideas, until it isn't." Sarah pulled up another link. Underground dinner clubs in major cities. They call them transcendent cuisine experiences. Rumor is they serve special meat, ethically sourced, they claim, from willing donors. That's urban legend. Is it? Remember Louise Chen, the Pembroke who married my uncle? Her grandson runs a high-end catering company in New York, serves celebrities, politicians, very exclusive, very secretive about his suppliers. The implications were staggering. Webb thought about every high-end restaurant he'd been to, every exclusive dinner party. "They won," Sarah said simply, "not through violence or isolation, but through integration, through normalization, through making us question why we think it's wrong in the first place." She stood up, walked to the window. "Do you know what Rebecca told me years later when I visited her in psychiatric care?" Webb waited. She said, "Miss Chen, you saved my body but killed my soul. You took me from a family that loved me, that would have made me part of them forever, and threw me into a world that calls me monster. Which is crueler?" She was brainwashed. Was she? Or was she raised in a different culture? Who decides which culture is right? Sarah laughed bitterly. "That's their new argument. Cultural relativism. Who are we to judge? It's brilliant. Evil but brilliant." Webb's phone buzzed. A news alert. His blood ran cold as he read it. "Mass grave found in rural Montana. Appears ritualistic. Bodies show signs of systematic butchering." Sarah looked at the headline without surprise. "Montana. The Johnsons expanded there in 2019. I've been tracking them. We have to stop them." "How?" "They're everywhere now. Integrated into society at every level. Some know what they are, others were raised normal, and only learn the family secret when they're deemed ready. They have lawyers, politicians, probably judges." She returned to the table, pulled out one final document. "This is why I asked you here, detective. This is the choice. It was a list of names, addresses, family trees, hundreds of confirmed Pembroke descendants, their locations, their jobs, their children's schools. I've spent 36 years compiling this. Every Pembroke, every marriage, every child, the complete infection vector. We can arrest them all. On what charges? Being related to cannibals, having ancestors who ate people. Most of them probably don't even know the family history, and the ones who do are too smart to leave evidence. Sarah leaned back. So here's the choice, Detective. We can release this information, make it public, let the world know that there are hundreds, maybe thousands of Pembroke descendants among us. Some practicing cannibalism, others just carrying the genetic and cultural potential for it. That would cause panic, vigilante violence. Innocent people would be hurt. Yes, but it would also expose them, force them into the light. Or, Webb said slowly, we keep it secret, monitor them, try to catch the active ones, while they continue to spread, to normalize, to recruit, to feed. They sat in silence, the weight of the choice crushing. Sarah pulled up one more video. A young boy, maybe 10, at what looked like a family reunion. The quality suggested it was filmed recently, maybe on a phone. The boy was standing before a table of Pembroke descendants, speaking, I promise to honor the family traditions, to keep the secret, to feed and be fed, to remember that we are one body, one blood, one meal. The gathered family applauded. In the background, barely visible, a banner read, Pembroke Henderson Johnson Smith Family Reunion 2023. 4 family names, Sarah pointed out. They're intermarrying, reconnecting, building a network. The video continued. The boy was handed something wrapped in butcher paper. He unwrapped it, revealing what looked like meat. He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. Whose love am I tasting, he asked. Great-uncle Theodore, someone answered. He passed last winter. We saved him for this moment. The boy smiled. I can taste his kindness. The video ended. Detective Webb stood abruptly, went to the trash can, vomited. When he recovered, Sarah was watching him with sad eyes. That boy goes to public school in Ohio, she said, plays Little League, has friends, normal friends whose parents have no idea what he goes home to. We have to. What? Take him from his family? Put him in foster care? He'll either be traumatized or he'll spread the infection to a new family. There's no good solution. She was right. Webb knew she was right. The Pembrokes had evolved beyond simple containment. They were a virus that had learned to hide its symptoms while still spreading. There's one more thing, Sarah said. She pulled out a DNA test result. I had myself tested. Genealogy website. Wanted to know about my uncle who married Louise Pembroke. Webb read the results. His face went white. You're related to them. Distantly, through my uncle's children. Which means there are others who don't know they have Pembroke blood, who might have inherited not just genes but tendencies, hungers. She looked at her hands. Sometimes, Detective, I have dreams where meat tastes better than it should, where I understand their logic, where the taboo seems arbitrary. That's just trauma. Is it, or is it something in the blood, something that can be activated, triggered by the right circumstances? The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. How many people out there have Pembroke ancestry and don't know it? Sarah asked. How many are one traumatic event, one famine, one collapse of civilization away from remembering what their great-great-grandmother taught? Webb's phone buzzed again. Another alert, then another. Multiple news stories breaking simultaneously. Mysterious meat served at upscale NYC restaurant traced to missing person. Underground consensual cannibalism movement gains momentum online. Montana mass grave connected to similar sites in 5 states. FDA investigating claims of human DNA in processed meat products. Sarah smiled grimly. It's starting. The revelation. They're not hiding anymore. They're coming out, testing the waters, seeing how we react. She stood, gathering her documents. So, Detective Webb, what's your choice? Do we release everything, cause panic, but maybe stop them? Or do we stay quiet and watch them normalize eating people, one dinner party at a time? Webb stared at the evidence spread before him. Hundreds of names, thousands of potential victims, a cancer that had metastasized throughout American society. There's a third option, he said quietly. Sarah looked at him. We could join them. The words hung in the air. Sarah's face showed no surprise. They offered, didn't they? She said. Rebecca, she reached out to you. Webb nodded slowly, pulling out a handwritten letter. Rebecca's elegant script. Dear Detective Webb, you've been watching us. We've been watching you. You see the truth. We're not monsters. We're the future. Join us. Help us transition society peacefully. Be part of the new world rather than desperately clinging to the old. We promise the meat really does taste better when it's seasoned with love. She sent me recipes, Webb admitted. Traditional Pembroke recipes, passed down since 1843. The smell, God help me, the smell was incredible. Sarah laughed, actually laughed. So that's our choice. Stop them, join them, or watch them win. She moved to the door. I made my choice 36 years ago when I called for help. I chose the old world, the world where eating people is wrong. But that world is dying, Detective. The question is, what world do you choose? She left, leaving Webb alone with the evidence. The names, the locations, the recipes. Outside the sun was setting. Dinner time across America. Families gathering, saying grace, sharing meals. How many of those meals, Webb wondered, contained special ingredients? How many children were being taught that meat was just meat? How many Pembrokes were out there, patients spreading, waiting for the day when they wouldn't have to hide anymore? He picked up Rebecca's letter again. At the bottom she'd written, P.S. Your grandfather's maiden name was Hennessy, but did you know her mother's maiden name, Pembroke? Welcome to the family, cousin. You've always been one of us. You just didn't know it. Webb's hands shook. He thought about every rare steak he'd ever craved, every time meat tasted better than it should, every dream where he understood things he shouldn't understand. The choice wasn't just about them. It was about him, about what he was, what he might become, what they all might become, given the right circumstances or the wrong ones. Detective Webb sat in his apartment, watching his laptop screen. The stream showed a massive dining hall, decorated for the holidays. Hundreds of people gathered around long tables. The title of the stream, The Great Reunion, Pembroke Family Christmas. He recognized some faces. Rebecca Pembroke Mitchell, now the matriarch. David with his mismatched arms, somehow still alive. Even Samuel, his jaw still crooked, carving what appeared to be a massive roast. But most were new faces, young faces, children and grandchildren, who looked completely normal. The chat sidebar scrolled with messages. Grandmother would be so proud. The tradition continues. Main branch sends love. Save me a finger. Webb's phone rang. Sarah Chen. Are you watching? She asked. They're live streaming it. They're not even hiding anymore. Check the viewer count. Webb looked. 147,000 viewers. As he watched, it jumped to 850,000. Now check the comments. Most were horrified, calling for FBI, police, anyone. But scattered throughout were different responses. Honestly kind of beautiful how they honor their dead. Who are we to judge their culture? If it's consensual, the meat industry is worse, TBH. Based and sustainability pilled. They're winning the culture war, Sarah said, making it a debate instead of an atrocity. On screen, Rebecca stood, raising a glass. The room fell silent. Family, she began. Blood of our blood, flesh of our flesh. We gather tonight not in shame but in celebration. For 180 years we've maintained our traditions despite persecution. Tonight we step into the light. Applause thundered through the hall. The old world called us monsters, but the new world understands. Resources are finite, taboos are arbitrary. Love takes many forms. She gestured to the feast laid out. Tonight we honor those who passed this year. 14 family members who chose to nourish us one last time. Their names will be spoken. Their meat will be savored. Their essence will become ours. She began reading names. After each one, the family repeated, "We thank you for your gift." Webb noticed something chilling. Young children at the tables looked uncomfortable, some crying. These weren't all willing participants. Some were being indoctrinated in real time. "We have to stop this," he told Sarah. "I already called it in. FBI says they're monitoring the situation. They won't act. Why not? Because 3 hours ago, Pembroke lawyers filed injunctions in 17 states. Religious freedom protection. They're claiming this is a sacred ritual protected by the Constitution. On screen, the feast began. The camera didn't shy away from what they were eating. The stream title updated, "Consuming Consent, a New Tradition." Then Rebecca looked directly at the camera. "Detective Webb, she said. "We know you're watching. The offer stands. Your place at our table awaits." Webb's blood froze. How did she know? His laptop dinged. A private message in the stream. "Check your refrigerator." Webb stood slowly, walked to his kitchen. Inside his fridge, where there had been nothing before, sat a wrapped package, butcher paper, tied with string. A note, "Your grandmother's recipe. She would want you to remember. Family." His hands shook as he unwrapped it. Meat, dark, rich, perfectly marbled. The smell hit him immediately. Intoxicating, familiar, wrong. He knew what it was, who it was. The note had a second page, an obituary. Marcus Webb Sr., beloved grandfather, passed peacefully November 15th. His grandfather, who'd been cremated, supposedly. Back at the laptop, a new message. "We saved him for you. Grandfather meat is special. It carries memories." Webb ran to the bathroom, vomited until he was empty. When he returned, the stream had changed. Now it was showing other locations, other gatherings, not just Pembrokes, but new families, converts. A map appeared, pins lighting up across the globe, hundreds of locations, thousands of participants. "It's not just America anymore," Sarah said through the phone. "They've gone global." A young woman appeared on screen, addressing the camera professionally. She looked like a news anchor. "Good evening. I'm Jennifer Pembroke Collins, and this is the New Flesh News. Tonight we celebrate a breakthrough. Portugal has become the first nation to decriminalize consensual post-mortem consumption. We go now to our correspondent in Lisbon. They have their own news network?" Webb whispered. "Check YouTube," Sarah said. "They have cooking channels, philosophy podcasts, TikTok influencers with millions of followers. They're not spreading by force anymore. They're spreading by influence." Webb searched. The results were staggering. Pembroke content everywhere, disguised as sustainability advocacy, cultural philosophy, radical cuisine, young people discussing protein privilege and consumption consent, university professors debating the ethics of necronutrition. One video had 4 million views, "Why I Chose to Be Eaten, a Love Story." He clicked it. A young woman, dying of cancer, explaining why she was donating her body to her Pembroke husband's family rather than wastefully burying it. "It's the ultimate act of love," she said, weak but smiling, becoming part of them forever. The comments were split, horror and support in equal measure. The support was gaining ground. Webb's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. A photo. It was him, from an hour ago, through his apartment window. He'd been watched the entire time. Another text. "We're not threatening you, cousin. We're inviting you. The hunger is already in you. We can smell it." He looked out his window. The street below was empty, or seemed empty. How many were out there, watching, waiting? The stream continued. Rebecca was speaking again. "To those viewing in horror, we ask, why? You eat animals who don't consent. We eat humans who do. Which is more ethical? You eat children," someone commented. Rebecca smiled. "We eat our own children, yes, when they're born too damaged to survive. Is it crueler to let them suffer, to waste their protein? Every culture has different practices around death. Ours is simply more practical. But the murders, show us proof," Rebecca challenged. "Show us one non-consensual death in the last decade. We've evolved. We're not the Marrow's Hollow of old. We're something new, something sustainable, something inevitable." She held up a book. Webb recognized it. The Bloodline book, the one bound in human skin. "This chronicles our past. But this," she held up a tablet, "chronicles our future. Digital records of every voluntary conversion, every consensual consumption, every legal precedent we've won. We're not hiding anymore. We're incorporating." The screen showed legal documents. Pembroke LLC, Pembroke Sustainable Proteins, Pembroke Cultural Foundation. They were becoming legitimate businesses, non-profits, recognized organizations. By 2025, Rebecca continued, "We project full legalization in 3 countries. By 2030, consumption consent laws in 12 US states. By 2040, global normalization." The math appeared on screen. Population growth, resource depletion, climate change, all pointing to one conclusion: traditional protein sources wouldn't sustain humanity. "We're not monsters," Rebecca said directly to camera. "We're pioneers, early adopters of humanity's inevitable future. When the last cow dies, when the ocean's empty, when crops fail, what will you eat? We already know. We've known for 180 years. The stream chat exploded. Arguments, threats, but also agreement. People doing the math, reaching the same horrible conclusion. Webb's laptop dinged. An email from the FBI. Investigation closed. No evidence of non-consensual consumption. First Amendment protections apply. Do not pursue further action. They won, Sarah said through the phone. They actually won. No, Webb said. Not yet. He stood, walked to his computer, began typing. He had all of Sarah's research. All the names, locations, family trees, everything. What are you doing? Sarah asked. Making the choice. Releasing everything. Every name, every location, every connection. Let the world decide. The innocents. There are no innocents anymore. Just those who eat people and those who don't. Yet, he uploaded everything to WikiLeaks, Reddit, every platform he could access. The Pembroke infection laid bare. Within minutes it went viral. The reaction was immediate and violent. The stream shifted to news channels. Breaking. Cannibal network exposed. Hundreds of locations raided. Vigilante violence erupts. On screen, Rebecca Pembroke smiled. Thank you, Detective Webb. You've done exactly what we hoped. Webb froze. You see, Rebecca continued, secrecy was becoming tiresome. Now it's in the open, a culture war, and we know how to win those. We have victims, persecuted families, children torn from homes. We have lawyers, we have influence, and most importantly, we have patience. She was right. The initial horror was already giving way to debate. News panels discussing both sides, social media influencers defending cultural practices, celebrities tweeting about consumption choice. The stream showed protests, pro-Pembroke protesters with signs, "My body, my choice, my meal," counter-protesters screaming, violence breaking out, perfect footage for Pembroke propaganda. "You've made us martyrs," Rebecca said, "and martyrs always win in the end." Webb's phone rang. Unknown number. Detective Webb, a young voice, female, scared. "My name is Ashley Pembroke. I'm 15. I don't want to be eaten. They're making me volunteer for next year's feast. Please help me." Before he could respond, the line went dead. Another call immediately. "Detective, I'm Jason Mitchell. I just found out my wife is a Pembroke. She's been feeding me. Oh God, she's been feeding me her uncle. I have kids. What do I do?" Another call. Another. His phone exploding with pleas for help, confessions, threats. The stream showed Rebecca one last time. "To the Pembroke family, scattered but united. Come home. All locations are compromised. Return to the hollows. We'll wait. A year, a decade, a generation, however long it takes. The hunger always returns. The world will come to us eventually." She looked directly at the camera, directly at Webb. "And Cousin Marcus, that meat in your refrigerator, it's not your grandfather. It's ordinary beef, marinated in special spices. But the fact that you believed it, that part of you wanted to believe it, that you could smell the difference, that tells you everything you need to know about what you are." The stream ended. Webb looked at the package in his fridge, smelled it again. She was right, it was just beef, but he'd been ready to believe. Some part of him had been excited to believe. Sarah was saying something through the phone, but Webb wasn't listening. He was thinking about that young girl, Ashley, begging for help, about the children born into this nightmare, about the ones who would be born into it. He walked to his window. Outside, protests were already forming. Pro and anti-Pembroke groups, facing off. Signs and chants, democracy in action, debating whether eating people should be legal. The Pembrokes had won by losing. By being exposed, they'd forced the conversation, made it political, cultural, debatable. In 50 years, maybe less, some form of consensual consumption would be legal somewhere. A small start, a crack in the taboo, that's all they needed. Webb looked at his grandfather's picture on the mantel. The man had died when Webb was 12. Natural causes, they said. But now he wondered, had his grandfather known? Had he been one of them? Was that why Webb could smell the difference in meat? His laptop pinged. A final message from Rebecca. "The invitation remains open. Your hunger will grow. We'll be waiting. Family is patient. Family is inevitable. Family is forever." Webb deleted the message, threw away the meat, tried to forget the smell, but he couldn't. He never would. Outside, the world was changing, the Overton window shifting. What was unthinkable yesterday was debatable today, would be acceptable tomorrow. Somewhere in the mountains, the Pembrokes waited, patient, multiplying, evolving, and everywhere else, in normal homes, in normal towns, people were having the conversation. If it's consensual, if they're already dead, if resources run out, if it means survival. The tape ended there. But Detective Webb knew the real ending hadn't been written yet. It would be written in small compromises, in desperate choices, in hunger, both literal and metaphorical. The Pembrokes hadn't just survived the exposure. They'd weaponized it, and they were winning, one meal at a time. You're watching this video in 2024. The events described happened in 1987 and 2023. Since then, 3 countries have legalized consensual post-mortem consumption. 17 states have pending legislation. The Pembroke Foundation is a registered 501c3 non-profit. Their cooking channel has 8 million subscribers. And if you're wondering why this story feels different, why it makes you uncomfortable in ways you can't articulate, ask yourself, when did you last eat meat you didn't see butchered? How sure are you of what you've consumed? How many Pembrokes have you unknowingly met? And most importantly, or if you were starving, if your children were dying, if it was consensual, if everyone else was doing it, what would you choose? The Pembrokes are waiting for your answer. They've been waiting for 181 years. They're very patient,